Dr. Sarah Mitchell knelt in the rust-colored sand of Kepler 4 for 2b. Her environmental suit worried softly as it regulated the thin atmosphere. The stick in her hand was unremarkably a twisted piece of dried vegetation, pale purple and surprisingly light. She'd picked it up without thinking, a nervous habit from childhood. When her hands needed something to do, that's when the cubs appeared. They emerged from behind the crystalline rock formation with the cautious curiosity of young redditors testing boundaries. Not human children, but not entirely alien either. The Vaerin cubs, 3 of them, walked on 4 legs that could shift to 2 with fluid grace. Their fur rippled with bioluminescent patterns that Sarah's translator AI had already identified as a form of communication. The largest cub, whom Sarah would later name Luna for the crescent mark above her eyes, approached first. Her siblings hung back, their patterns pulsing yellow caution mixed with intrigue. Luna's eyes fixed on the stick in Sarah's hand, and suddenly her fur erupted in a cascade of brilliant blue fractals. Sarah froze. First contact protocols screamed in her head. She was a xenobiologist, not a diplomat, and she was alone on this expedition while her team analyzed samples 3 kilometers away. The cubs weren't supposed to be here. The Varan adults had established clear boundaries, designating this area as safe for human research. But Luna didn't seem threatening. The cub sat back on her haunches and tapped the ground once with her front paw, a single, deliberate motion. Sarah watched, barely breathing. Luna tapped again, once, then she looked at Sarah, then at the stick, then back at Sarah. The pattern on her fur shifted to a deep green. What Sarah's limited understanding suggested was invitation or encouragement. Carefully, Sarah tapped the stick once against a nearby rock. The sound echoed sharp in the thin air. Luna's fur exploded in brilliant gold. The other 2 cubs rushed forward, their earlier caution forgotten. The smallest one, Sarah dubbed him Nova, for his energetic bursts of white light bounced excitedly around his siblings. Luna tapped twice, deliberately, separately. One to Sarah's heart raced. She was witnessing something extraordinary. She tapped twice. The cubs' patterns synchronized, a breathtaking display of emerald and sapphire that rippled across all 3 in waves. Luna tapped 3 times. Sarah matched her, then Luna did something unexpected. She traced a pattern in the sand with her claw, 3 distinct marks, lines, symbols. She looked at Sarah expectantly. Hands trembled as she used the stick to copy the marks beside Luna's. The cub's fur shifted through a spectrum of colors Sarah had never seen, settling on a warm amber that felt like approval, pride. The middle cub, whom Sarah named Atlas for his steady, grounded presence, stepped forward. He scratched 5 marks into the sand, but they weren't just repetitions. The pattern was different. 3 marks close together, a space, then 2 marks. He was showing her grouping structure. "Oh my God," Sarah whispered inside her helmet. "You're teaching me to count in your system for the next hour." The cubs led Sarah through an intricate mathematical language. Nova would demonstrate, his movements quick and playful. Atlas would reinforce, adding context and structure. Luna orchestrated it all, watching Sarah with intelligence that sent shivers down the scientist's spine. They showed her base 8 counting matching their 2-handed anatomy. They demonstrated addition using pebbles and subtraction by removing them. When Sarah struggled with a concept, they'd repeat it, breaking it down into smaller pieces, their bioluminescence shifting to encouraging colors. Sarah learned that double taps meant multiplication, that spiraling patterns in the sand represented exponential growth, that the cubs could convey complex numerical relationships through combinations of movement, light, and physical marking that were far more sophisticated than anything humanity had attributed to the Varan species. The scientific community believed the Varan were pre-industrial, possibly intelligent, yes, but primitive. The adult Varan had been cordial but distant with the human expedition, showing little interest in exchange beyond basic trade protocols. But these cubs were teaching, actively, patiently, teaching a concept that required abstract thought, symbolic representation, and pedagogical strategy. When Luna scratched out what could only be described as a mathematical proof demonstrating that certain number combinations always yielded the same result regardless of order, Sarah had to sit down heavily. "You're not primitive at all," she said aloud, though the cubs couldn't understand her words. "You're just ... different. We've been so arrogant." Nova chittered a sound Sarah's translator couldn't pass but which carried undeniable amusement. He drew in the sand again, this time creating a pattern that looked like a star map. He tapped 8 times, then pointed to one of the marks. He tapped 12 times and pointed to another. He was showing her distances, astronomical distances, using the counting system they'd just taught her. Sarah's vision blurred with tears. These weren't cubs being playful. This was a test, an evaluation. The Vaeran adults hadn't avoided deeper contact with humans because they were primitive. They'd been waiting to see if humanity was worth teaching, waiting to see if humans could learn, and they'd sent their children to find out. Luna approached Sarah one last time. The cub placed her paw gently on Sarah's gloved hand, and her bioluminescence shifted through every color they'd used during the Lesena cascade of meaning. Sarah was only beginning to understand. Then Luna scratched one final symbol in the sand. It was complex, beautiful, and utterly foreign. Sarah looked at it, then at Luna. I don't know that one yet. Luna's fur pulsed soft blue patient sand. She tapped the stick still in Sarah's hand. Once, starting over, beginning again. Sarah smiled through her tears. Okay, she said. Teach me. The cubs settled around her, their patterns synchronizing into a harmonious glow. And as Kepler-4 for 2b's twin suns set on the horizon, a human learned to count like the Varan, not because humanity conquered the stars, but because humanity finally learned to listen.